some of the scenes during the recent looting in the country showed children being used to loot, carrying goods. The question now, the looting seems to have gone. What is the psychological impact of this on our children? These are children who come from vulnerable communities. Access to basic necessities is a luxury. And what have the last 2 weeks taught us about child hunger and the implications for the high rate of unemployment? We're joined now by Professor Renata Schoeman from the SA Society of Psychiatrists. Professor Schoeman, good evening to you, and thank you very much indeed for your time tonight. When we look at the impact of all of this on our children, I mean, when a child is asked by their parent or caregiver to help them take something from a store without paying for it, there are going to be long-term implications to this.
Absolutely, and it's a huge question in terms of the effects of the moral impact on our children, but more short-term, the children are being traumatized by these events, not only through direct exposure through the violence and to the looting, but as you said, the implications of the disruption of infrastructure, schooling, food, healthcare services, etc. But also the secondary exposure by the adult conversations and also what they see in social media, video clips that's being repeated in terms of the violence as well.
I mean, how does it present itself? I mean, it's very difficult. We all want to protect our children from bad things, from, you know, evil things. But you can't sort of stop them from knowing what's been happening.
No, I think it's important that we can protect them in a way in terms of being a buffer between them and events. Firstly, don't take your child to be participating in this type of violent events. But secondly, also filter your adult conversations. Be careful what you recount to colleagues, to friends, to whoever, and also don't re-look the video clips in the presence of children. We do not want to negate that it has happened. By all means, explain it to children, talk to them about it, but also explain to them that this is not a normal situation and the results of it is also not normal. We must be aware also and vigilant for children now, secondary to being exposed to the violence, that they can develop symptoms of what we call post-traumatic stress disorder, where children can be traumatized and it can present in a variety of symptoms, either behavioral symptoms or emotional symptoms. That they can be more anxious, more fearful, disrupting in their sleep patterns, and also becoming more regressive childlike behavior in terms of bedwetting, clinginess with their parents. And we really need to be alert of the symptoms in our children.
It also comes on top of the trauma of COVID-19, you know, where children were just 18 months ago going to school, you know, during term time, maybe playing sports, seeing their friends, spending weekends with family. The last year, I mean, it's been terrible to be an adult, but it's been terrible to be a child as well. This is trauma upon that trauma.
Absolutely. Education in schools is such a safe haven for the majority of children in this country. It's a place where they often also get food, but where there's adult supervision, where there's peer support and maybe a safe adult that they can talk to that can keep them safe, or a psychologist in some schools that might be available, which is now completely disruptive. Children do not have a go-to person. They do not have a go-to peer. And the social isolation definitely complicates matters.
So where is the line? Where do we start to, you know, actually talk about our children, and where do we stop? And is there a conversation in there about the power of images on children, of pictures?
So children often, especially when they're younger, understand pictures better than words. They don't always have the vocabulary. And also to talk to their emotion, about the emotions, we need to teach them the words. So it's very important to have the conversation with the children if they've been exposed either in the environment or through social media and news, to explain to them the incident, but also not to talk it away, to say that fear and anxiety, uncertainty is normal. I think where we go wrong as adults, often we doom scroll. We try to get more and more information about the event in order for ourselves to have a sense of control, but it actually just makes us feel more powerless. So it's also important to highlight the positive stories to the children, to say, you know, this is really bad what has happened. This is not how things should be, but there's also positives, what we can take control of in terms of how the society is banding together in really rebuilding things, but also what a child can do. I can reach out to a friend. I can ask if they're okay, but I can maybe even, especially if I'm in provinces that's not directly affected, make contributions either through my toys or my clothes that I can maybe participate and do something positive about it. It's also important for parents to help their child feel safe and secure, to say that I will do anything in my ability to keep you safe, and we will get food. Look how all the NGOs is banding also together and sending food to the affected areas and to the people.
I mean, all of this leads to the question, do you think that the children who are growing up now, I mean, is what's happening, COVID-19, violence in our society in this way, is this going to be with them forever? Are they going to be a generation in some way shaped and formed by this?
It will definitely have an impact on them, but I just hope and believe, and I am by nature rather optimistic, but I believe that we still have a lot of positive role models in our society and that we have good values in our society. And it's so important as how we're going forward, that history do not keep on repeating itself, that we do not see a replay of violence that was there pre-94, after 94. We can't always resort to this type of behavior in terms of getting change in society. But I believe that they might be able to learn from this, but we really do hope that there's a message of this is not the right way of doing it. Let's talk about it. Let's build up together.
Professor Renata Schoeman at the SA Society of Psychiatrists, I really appreciate the time tonight. Important conversation. Thank you very much indeed.